Imagine a school classroom. What do you see? You see a blackboard, a teacher, benches and chairs. But finally what you see are boys and girls sitting together and learning together as one. But what if I tell you, if it wasn't for the figure behind me, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, the girl child won't be in the picture itself. Vidyasagar spearheaded the reform agenda in Bengal as an educator and as a women empowerment activist. He single-handedly opened the gates for women and girls in the education sector, and this episode of the Biography series will reconstruct and celebrate his life. More than that, we'll be talking about his contributions. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, also known as Ishwar Chandra Bandyopadhyay, was born on 26 September 1820. He was born in a very small village of Birsingha in Midnapur district in West Bengal. His parents, Thakur Das Bandyopadhyay and Bhagwati Devi, were orthodox Bengalis but did emphasize on education. As a learner and as a student, he was really receptive. He studied Vedanta, grammar, literature, Smriti, ethics, logic, astronomy, Hindu law, and even English at the Sanskrit College in Calcutta between 1829 and 1841. It was his encyclopedic knowledge that gave him the title of Vidyasagar, or the ocean of knowledge, from his village folks, and thereafter he is known as Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. In the same period, he also passed his law exam in 1839. Vidyasagar, after completing his studies, became the foremost educator in Bengal. He joined the Fort William College in 1841 as the HOD, or the head of department, of the Sanskrit department at the age of just 21, very, very young. In 1846, he then joined the Sanskrit College as the assistant secretary with the aim of improving the syllabus. However, he was a victim of internal politics, and it was due to the objections of the conservative secretary, Roshmoy Datta, that Vidyasagar had to resign from the position of assistant secretary. It was, however, his brilliance that in 1850, Vidyasagar rejoined the college as the professor of Sanskrit and became the principal within a month's time. This only shows you that if you're brilliant, nobody can keep you down. As the principal, he also revolutionized the teaching methodology of Sanskrit and Bengali. More than that, he also wrote what is called a Bengali primer. What is a primer? The primer is the way you write an alphabet. And today, the Bengali alphabet in its primer was actually written by Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. However, the most noble contribution as principal was to open the gates of the college to the non-Brahmin students from lower castes. At the times when the schools used to favor the privileged classes and was based on donations, Vidyasagar was the first person in Bengal to introduce the concept of open admission and tuition fees. He also introduced Western thought to popularize Sanskrit. Further, he introduced English and Bengali as a medium of instruction. As a teacher, he was able to create a unique blend of indigenous and Western education. He introduced courses in European history, philosophy, science, alongside Vedic scriptures. And this he wanted to encourage the students to get the best of both worlds, to make sure that the students also got employment after they left the college. Vidyasagar ran what is called the Calcutta Metropolitan Institution, now called as the Hindu Metropolitan Institution, which used to prepare the students in entrance examinations. In order to undercut the control which the British had over education, he also started his own college, which is now named after him. It was the first private college in India, which was run by Indians, taught by Indians, and financed by Indians. In recognition of his intellect and contribution, in May of 1855, he was then appointed as Special Inspector of Schools. And as Special Inspector, he then opened 20 schools in the Nadia, Bardhaman, Hooghly, and Midnapur district of Bengal, and even one in his own village with his own money. He also established schools which are called normal schools. What is a normal school? A normal school trains the teacher how to teach in schools. However, there was a lot of differences which started to develop between the Director of Public Instructions, which forced Vidyasagar to resign from the post itself. Besides being a brilliant educator, he also was an exceptional writer. He contributed significantly in the Bengali and Sanskrit literature. He wrote in prestigious publications such as the Tattvabodhini Patrika, the Som Prakash, the Sarvabharshu Bhankari Patrika, and the Hindu Patriot. His most important contribution was, however, the textbooks he wrote and published. The Upar Monika, the Vyakran Kaumudi interpreted Sanskrit grammar in easy and legible Bengali language. However, Vidyasagar's most important work is called Borno Poriche. Borno Poriche is an elementary level book for learning Bengali alphabets, where he reconstructed the Bengali alphabets, reformed them into the typography of 12 vowels and 40 consonants. He also established Sanskrit presses and a press so that common people could afford printed books. He did not stop at writing books. He also translated a lot of books. He wrote and created a new style of Bengali prose by improvising as he was translating books such as Vital Panchavingsati, Shakuntala, Sitar Banbas. He wanted his students to learn moral values as they were studying and develop a liberal outlook and explore beyond their country. This is a very important point because moral values is something which he emphasized on. To add another feather to Vidyasagar's cap, he campaigned for women's education and girls' education quite rigorously. He started 35 schools throughout Bengal for girls. He also modified the curriculum to give self-reliance to the girls by adding vocational training such as needlework to the curriculum. At one point of time, he enrolled as many as 1,300 students. He also created a very important fund called the Nari Siksha Bhandar, which used to support his cause. He even went door to door requesting the heads of the family to enroll their women in the schools. He endorsed J.E.D. Bethune in establishing the first permanent girls' school in India called the Bethune School on May 7, 1849. As I said earlier, he was a man of action and never settled. After opening the doors for girls into schools, he then concentrated on issues related to widows. During Vidyasagar's time, widows were required to shave their heads and to wear white all the time. They were not even allowed to go outside their homes. They had to lead a life of hard domestic labor and semi-starvation. Sometimes teenage girls, preteen girls were married off to old men. Consequently, widowed at a very, very young age. They were not allowed to remarry. This outraged Vidyasagar. He advocated remarriage, widow remarriage. More than that, he said and used the Hindu scriptures to prove that widow remarriage was sanctioned within the scriptures. There was nothing in the scriptures which stopped that. And it was the power relations of the society which was stopping it. This is a very significant point because this way he was different from other social reformers. Other social reformers used to use or reject the scriptures, but he is the person who's using the scriptures to justify social reform. He spoke out against polygamy, but along with justifying widow remarriage, Vidyasagar also started a movement to legalize it. It's a very important point because legalization is something which the British could give him. More than that, he did not stop at critiquing, but also getting a solution. He organized a signature campaign and sent a petition to the government on 14th October 1855 asking for a law. And following suit, a lot of petitions came from Bengal, Madras, Bombay, Nagpur and other cities of India. Finally, on 16th July 1856, the Widow Remarriage Act, or what we call as Hindu Widows Remarriage Act or Act 15, was passed to legalize widow remarriage, and the child which were born out of it were given a legitimate status. The first lawful Hindu upper caste remarriage was done on 7 December 1856 in Calcutta under the supervision and inspiration of Vidyasagar. Between 1855 and 1860, there were close to 25 widow remarriages which were performed with the monetary help of Vidyasagar himself. More than that, there was a lot of literature which was also produced during this time trying to advocate for widow remarriage, dramas and prose which were written for remarriage. In 1866, Vishnu Shastri Pandit translated Vidyasagar's book on widow remarriage into Marathi to spread the message further. Like a man on a mission, after girls' education, widow remarriage, Vidyasagar protested against child marriage and polygamy. In 1857, a petition led by Maharaja of Burdwan prohibiting polygamy amongst Kuleen Brahmins got a support of close to 25,000 signatures, but was delayed because of the revolt of 1857, which changed the regime itself in India. However, in 1866, Vidyasagar again inspired another petition with 21,000 signatures this time. Imagine an era in which there is no social media, 21,000 signatures. And in the 1870s, Vidyasagar then wrote two very brilliant critiques of polygamy, arguing to the government that polygamy again had no sanction in the sacred texts. And this is again a very important point. He always used sacred texts to argue against social evils. And they said that you bring in a legislation again because there is no sanction in the ancient Hindu scriptures. More than that, there was nothing which could stop Vidyasagar, but only his age. And at the age of 70, he passed away on 29 July 1891 in Calcutta. All in all, Vidyasagar represents a blend of Indian and Western culture. His greatness lay in his sterling character, shining intellect. He proposed and possessed immense courage and a fearless mind, and practiced what he believed in. Moreover, he was a great humanist who possessed immense and very big sympathy for the poor, unfortunate, and oppressed. After his death, Rabindranath Tagore said that no wonder how God, in producing 40 million Bengalis, produced a man. And whilst talking about Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Michael Madhusudan Datta said that he technically had the genius and wisdom of an ancient sage, the energy of an Englishman, and the heart of a Bengali mother. Vidyasagar's legacy transcends time and his efforts, and his efforts in the education sector itself are unparalleled. And technically, it is not surprising that in 2004, Vidyasagar was ranked 8th in the poll to identify the greatest Bengalis organized by the BBC. Over and above everything, Vidyasagar was a very important educator, a very important social reformer, important writer, and at the end of the day, his contribution to Bengali language and the way he changed the education sector in Bengal is very, very important. Thank you, and for further videos, log on to the BYJU'S app.